Welcome to this podcast for Brighton School of Business and Management students studying for the HND Level 5 courses. The focus of this assignment is the law as it relates to the sale of goods, consumer credit, monopolies and intellectual property in everyday business activity. You're not expected to demonstrate considerable expertise, but you are expected to show that you have a good understanding of the aspects of business law that are highlighted in the assignment and how they affect most businesses. In addition to the study material that we provide, you will need to carry out supplementary reading and find additional information on certain topics. Also, where possible, discuss the assignment topics with your managers and specialists, such as sales, marketing and purchasing, within your own organisation. Section 1. You need to give examples here from your own organisation or business sector of how the above apply to the sale of goods, referring to statutory implied terms, transfer of property and possession, seller's remedies against the buyer, consumer's remedies against the seller and relevant legislation, and the supply of services, referring to statutory implied terms, seller's remedies and consumer's remedies. Give examples again here, ideally from your own organisation or business sector, of how the above apply to product liability, referring to defective goods, consumer remedies against the producer of defective goods, and relevant legislation. Section 2. You need to briefly describe here forms of consumer credit agreements, referring to restricted use of credit, unrestricted use of credit, debtor-creditor-supplier agreements, debtor-creditor arrangements, and relevant legislation. You need to refer to other agreements, including exempt agreements, small agreements, multiple agreements, linked transactions, and cancelable agreements. And finally, you need to refer to consumer credit licensing, referring to general requirements, the issue of licenses, termination of consumer credit agreements, early repayment, right to terminate, termination statements, enforcement of consumer credit agreements, creditors' remedies, default notices, and relevant legislation. Describe a relevant situation or scenario, such as an agreement being made with a major supplier or major customer regarding credit arrangements, ideally from your own organisation or business sector, and describe how legal rules, termination rights, and default notices might be applied. On bullet point 3, you need to give a definition of an agent, describe the types of agent, the authority of agents, and how they operate in different situations. Finally, you need to describe the rights and duties of the agent and principal, an agent's liability to third party, conditions for termination of agency, and relevant legislation. Section 3. On bullet point 1, just as asked, define monopoly and anti-competitive practice, then refer to relevant legislation, scale monopolies, complex monopolies, and restrictive trade practices with examples. On bullet point 2, refer to the role of the Commission and the OFT, decisions that can be made, and the appeals process. Here you need to define dominant position and refer to EU treaty provisions, the abuse of a dominant position, and enforcement options. Finally, you need to describe a potentially anti-competitive practice, such as groups of businesses forming a cartel or a manufacturer offering exclusive distribution rights, which appears to be anti-competitive but is exempted because it is estimated that the agreement will not have a significant effect on market activity. This might be, for example, because the partners to the agreement do not have a significant market share. Section 4. Here you need to list and describe the forms of intellectual property that a business might hold, what that property is, such as a design, an invention, an image, a logo or a brand name, and how these are protected, such as through patents, registered trademarks, copyright law, etc. On bullet point 2, you will need to describe a business situation or scenario, for example an invention which needs protection, and describe how the rights of the inventor, the organisation or the individual can be protected, referring to the legislation and the role of the UK Patent Office and or the European Union Patent Office, and the potential conflict between employee and the organisation. Here you'll need to describe a business situation or scenario, for example where copyright is claimed, and describe how the rights of the organisation can be protected, referring to copyright legislation, ownership of copyright, duration of copyright, and legal or illegal use of copyright materials. Finally, a simple task to end this assignment: describe each of these terms and how protection is obtained and maintained, giving examples ideally from your own organisation's product or services portfolio or from your business sector. Here is a list of websites that you will find useful when completing this assignment. And if you need any further help or guidance with this assignment, please contact your tutor.